It is NFL Draft Week. If you, like us here at Chat Sports, are excited about what's to come this year for the NFL Draft and all our coverage at the Cowboys Report, then show it by liking today's video right now. Before we get into the show, a quick shout out to Eli Aaron, who did come out on top with the most comments on our video later last week. Appreciate you, Eli, as promised. There's your shout out. Well over 200 comments from Eli, by the way. Let's begin with the round 2 target that has been heavily linked to the Dallas Cowboys. That is Jonathon Brooks, the Texas running back who, most years there's somebody you feel like ends up being a Cowboy. Sometimes it's round 1. Leighton Vander Esch was pretty obvious and telegraphed there. Sam Williams was heavily telegraphed. And Jonathon Brooks might be the guy this year. Adam Schefter, the latest to join the growing buzz of keep an eye on Brooks in Dallas, writing, quotes, had Brooks not torn his right ACL last November, he likely would have been the top running back selected, possibly in the middle or later portion of round 1. Now, his knee injury is expected to push him into the second round. Even in a draft considered subpar at the position, more on that in a moment, some think it would be a surprise if Brooks made it past Dallas's turn at number 56. I don't think this would surprise very many people. I think that'd be like, yep, that makes sense. You have Brooks to Dallas, and that's been a very popular mock draft pick in round 2. They checked off all the boxes, pre-draft visit, brought him in for the medical stuff, et cetera. His team doctor did his surgery. There's a lot of connections from that perspective. And although I don't think Brooks would have been a mid-round 1 pick, had he been healthy, I do think we'd be having a lot of conversation that'd be much more realistic than what it was the last time a Texas back was a first-round pick, which of course was Bijan Robinson last year. Bijan was never going to get there in last year's draft. Brooks will be there in round 1, and I think will be there in round 2. There's a real chance that none of the running backs are taken when Dallas is on the clock at pick number 54. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I have Brooks. I have finished my stack and my rankings, and I'm just not going to tweak anything more because I could be tweaking for days on end. Kind of weird phrasing, but you know what I mean. Second, third round grade, which ended up ranking about 54th overall, which is higher than like pure 2s, but I don't love the round 2 class that much. It's just kind of thin for me. Number 3 ranked back, so I wouldn't be that mad if it was the pick in round 2. And I think, like many of us, I accept this as a very potential outcome. So prediction time. Will Dallas draft Jonathon Brooks? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments section. Let's check in again here on Trey Lance. Stephen Jones offering plenty of praise for the Cowboys' backup quarterback who still has only done that uniform in an actual game that matters for the 49ers. Here's what Stephen Jones said on Lance. He's done nothing but excite us even more as he's worked here all of last season and the offseason. In terms of his work ethic, his skill level, we're very pleased. He exhibits everything you would think a top 5, top 10 pick would exhibit. He exhibits similar type work ethic to Dak Prescott. Obviously, Trey is a really good athlete, and the most important thing in his arm. He's got a very live arm, very strong arm. He continues to improve with his footwork and his accuracy. For me, these are all platitudes. That's like, it would only be weird if he didn't say that stuff. Like, he's working hard, we like his development. Like, copy-paste that line, change the adjectives for like strong arm to, whatever. Applies to any player, any position. What matters, I think for me, I think for you guys too, for the most part, is the preseason. The preseason is critical for Trey Lance. We have not seen him take a meaningful snap in a Dallas Cowboys jersey. Hasn't happened. I think the preseason, because at minimum, he should look really good in the preseason. If he doesn't, that raises red flags. How are you going to beat up on starters if you're struggling against backups in the preseason? I think there's going to be a ton of reps for Trey Lance come August, and we will see how he looks. And ideally, he looks really good, because otherwise, you kind of feel like you wasted that 4th round pick. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Maybe you are worried about the Cowboys quarterback spot long term. You shouldn't have to worry, though, about buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time takes the guesswork out of doing just that. It is easy to find and buy tickets for every type of event in your area. Views from your seat in the venue so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And always keep an eye out for a zone deal if you can find one. That's when you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings, by the way, in the process. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today for last-minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's go back to the NFL draft here, and much like running back being a target, linebacker is also a very blatant and obvious focal point for the Cowboys in this year's draft. Here's what Stephen Jones said most recently. Philosophically, I think we'll have more of a 3-linebacker system than a 2-linebacker and 3-safety system. I think the other thing is we'll probably look to be bigger and stronger in the middle. I'll come back to that part about being bigger and stronger in the middle and the linebacker lack of bodies as well. I do want to clarify one thing because Steven's not very good at this. They're still going to use a lot of nickel. I saw the response being they're going to be in base all the time. Like that's not what Steven means. He means when they are in their normal base. I actually call it heavy now because you're in nickel 60 to 70% of the time already. When you're in your heavy/base personnel, it's going to be more of a normal base package and not only utilizing 3 safeties the same way Dan Quinn did, although I would argue that was out of necessity more than anything. Now, the 30 visits are always a good indication of what positions and players the Cowboys are targeting, and they have brought in a ton of linebackers here. Some day 2 most likely targets, Edgerrin Cooper out of A&M, Junior Colson out of Michigan, Payton Wilson from NC State, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. Day 3 targets, Nathaniel Watson, Jordan McGee. Since we filmed our 30-visit tracker, 2, maybe, new names. Jalen Ford, per Clarence Hill, is on there. And maybe Tyron Hopper, he had been mentioned briefly by Nick Harris on the draft show. Now, Hopper was also a combine visit or a meeting, so I'm not sure if it just kind of got wires crossed there. But there are open spots, so it's certainly possible from that perspective. I would bet, if not 1, 2, if they double dip in like the day 3 section, I think this team's going to draft a linebacker and or linebackers this year. So with that in mind, what linebacker do you want to draft? Sound off for me in the comment section right now. The reality is this team needs bodies at linebacker because they lose Leighton Vander Esch, sub in Eric Kendricks, and that's it. You get back to Marvin Overshown healthy. You're not going to enter, post-UDFA cycle with 4 linebackers on your roster. I could easily see this team adding 4, both through the undrafted free agency process and through the draft. I think you will see bodies added to this group because there just isn't enough at this time. I also find it funny that this team wants to be bigger and stronger in the middle, and they've done literally nothing to improve their defensive line room so far. They've got 3 picks in the top 150, guys. How are you going to add a linebacker, a running back, an offensive lineman, and a defensive lineman? The math isn't mathing. There's just not enough. There's not enough op picks available here. So I would love to trade down and use one of those extra picks on a defense tackle. I don't love the class. It's a little bit thin. But, are you going to take a 5th-round defensive tackle and say we got better in the middle? I think that's kind of pushing it a little bit. And it's not like there are a bunch of free agents left either at this time. We've gained 300 subscribers in the month of April. Let's get to 500 before the NFL draft. Tell your friends we will be live for this year's NFL draft. Whether it's the simulcast or me solo, we will be live for pretty much every single pick, even the ones where the Cowboys aren't picking in this year's NFL draft. Speaking of the draft, Bleacher Report back at it again. They had a fairly wild trade-up idea involving the Atlanta Falcons. Now, it was like a deal the Falcons couldn't say no to, and they couldn't say no to this offer. The Cowboys go up their first, their second, and their first next year to go up to pick number 8, which is a colossal trade-up here. I have thoughts, but let's hear what Bleacher Report has to say. The Cowboys should be looking to shore up deficiencies along their offensive line or on the edge in this year's draft, and they may not want to wait until 24 to do so. At number 8, they land a high-end contributor who can assist on a deep playoff run if they needed following last year's stunning wildcard round exit. Dallas doesn't have many roster holes after consecutive 12-5 finishes. It should be happy coming away with someone like Joe Alt or Jared Verse, the top O-lineman and editor on the Bleacher Report department big board. We have draft holes. What are you talking about there? There's a lot of them. Also, trading up for Jared Verse would be really stupid. I like the player, first-round grade. He's a fringe top 20 guy for me, though. He's a late first-round grade. If Joe Alt were there, like, okay, I get it. You're getting the best offensive lineman in this year's class and a top 5 player for me. This team is so light on draft picks. And to be clear, Bleacher Report, I need an offensive lineman, 1 if not 2, a running back, a linebacker. I need multiple defensive linemen to fill out my damn roster. I would love to draft a corner or a wide receiver if the value was right and the picks was there. But I need at least 2 or 3 starters in this year's draft. How am I doing that when I'm trading away all of that draft capital? And, oh, by the way, next year's first, which I might need for a quarterback. Doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. I think it is more likely this team trades down than trades up. In fact, I like the idea a lot of trading down. I think with the way the board could fall, guy you take at 24 might be the same guy at 31, depending on who you want it to be, and you get extra draft assets. I would be on board with that idea. So will the Cowboys make a round 1 trade? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Go ahead and sound off in the comments section.